Welcome back. A spokesman for the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has warned that returning people to Libya cannot be considered a rescue as fighting continues around Tripoli. In the past week, 65 migrants have drowned, and since the Tripoli clashes began, 871 migrants have been picked up and returned to detention in often unacceptable conditions. That's according to the United Nations. A group of aid agencies in Libya are calling for a UN resolution to support people caught in fighting around Tripoli, where the United Nations says 66,000 people have been forced out of their homes and at least 454 others killed since April the 5th.
Last week, around 944 people are known to have departed in boats from the Libyan coast. We know of the 65 that drowned in the incident of Tunisia, but of the survivors, 65% were subsequently disembarked in Libya. The UNHCR has repeatedly called that at this time nobody should be returned to Libya, that there are no safe ports there, and we cannot consider this to be a rescue if people are being returned to dire conditions inside Tripoli detention centres. So we're calling for a two-pronged approach. One is a significant increase in search and rescue capacity on the central Mediterranean, and that needs to come from NGO vessels and other state vessels, and also for the international community to come forward and evacuate people out of the detention centres as quickly as possible.
Let's get more on this story from immigration lawyer, Mr. Dayo Fadino. He joins us live and direct here in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure, Tenny.
So the United Nations has accused the EU of hampering search and rescue efforts in the Mediterranean. It claims the EU is sending migrants back to Libya in not so good conditions. How can the EU be persuaded to stop this practice?
Oh, thank you, Tenny. This problem to do with migrants and refugees, as far as the Libyan situation is concerned, this has been going on for so many years. I remember in 2016 we had this problem. I think it also occurred again in 2018. You see, the UN would have to do something about this because you cannot be seen as an international organization to allow people to be returned to a place where they're not going to be protected in any way, where their human rights would be breached all through the time they'll be in Libya. And that's what's been going on for so many years in this country. We have a country, Libya, today, which is a failed state. We could categorize Libya as a failed state today. And for the UN is the champion of the human rights and freedoms of human beings all over the world. And for them not to want to rescue or not to want to search for people who are fleeing their lives, fleeing for their lives from a place like Libya and not doing anything about it. And
they are actually doing things. They're accusing the EU of not doing enough, of sending them back to Libya. They're saying that they're putting them in worse situations.
I take that point. But you see, over the years, the UN has actually seen this happening in the last 2 or 3 years. They should have done something very, very serious about it, which they've not. Although, yes, they are taking action now, but they should be seen to at least do things properly and not allow, impress it upon the EU that, look, most of the problems we have in the Middle East today, particularly in countries like Libya, they should take responsibility, the EU, because they are the people. Most of these EU countries are the countries that supply weapons to different parties in this situation.
We have this discussion over and over again of people, taking the route to Libya to try and get to the EU, and a lot of people, year and year, die on that journey. What are the legal, safer means are available for people who are seeking a better life?
Well, you see, there are so many avenues, so many people could actually call upon if they would want to, emigrate to Europe, particularly countries like the UK, France, and all other European countries. I mean, I'll just quickly go through a few of them, and I'm very, very passionate about this because I do so many seminars about this in the UK, and I'm trying to actually do the same in this country. First of all, you have what's called the investor's visa. If you have enough means to be able to at least go to the UK and invest, and then secure leave to enter the UK legally. You got the Innovators Entrepreneur Visa, you got settlement visas where you could apply, and so long as you meet the rules and regulations, you could move to the UK. I'm specifically talking about the UK right now, not France, but I believe so many other European countries have the same rules and regulations. You have a situation where if you are fleeing persecution, or if you feel that indeed you are being persecuted for political reasons, national reasons, or any other reason, there is what's called an asylum application. These routes and these ways are far, far better than people trying to cross the desert or try to cross the Mediterranean to be able to actually get to the UK, to get to Europe. That's so, so dangerous. And I would advise so many people that they should do what they need to do legally, seek proper advice, and there are so many other ways where people could move to Europe without actually risking their lives, day in, day out, every single year, which is so, so dangerous.
Well, what advice would you give people who might not have the financial support or might not want to wait so long to leave? What advice would you give them?
Well, it depends on what we mean by financial support. Let me give you a very good example of what I mean. Right now in the UK, there's so much shortage of labor, particularly to do with professional labor. People like teachers, teachers in mathematics and science subjects. You have so many professions that the UK is now short of because of the Brexit situation. In those kind of situations, you do not have to spend so much if you qualify under the rules and regulations to be able to move to the UK. You don't need thousands of dollars or thousands of pounds, so long as you qualify to make use of those avenues, apply for the visas you need to actually apply for. And if you then succeed, you move to the UK. Yes, I understand the fact that there are people who are very, very poor. They don't really have the financial support to be able to do it. But that does not mean that they should be risking their lives, seeing what we see every day.
Tragic,
crossing the desert and crossing the Mediterranean just because they want to go to Europe. And at the end of the day, I understand the desperation, but it beggars believe why fellow human beings like you and I would think that the only best way they could get over into Europe is to want to walk across the desert. That shows serious desperation. And I believe even the governments of so many of these countries should also do something about this, because if we don't really have failed governments in the West Africa, many of the citizens will want to leave and to want to actually risk their lives, wanting to cross the desert or cross the sea. So again, various governments in West Africa should also do something about this, seriously.
All right, then, immigration lawyer, Mr. Dayo Fadino, thank you so much for speaking to us and coming to the studio today. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's it on the program today. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shobo Ali. Bye for now.